What is a T-shaped persona? Now, we've heard of T-shaped teams before, but when we start talking about personas, I don't know that I've ever applied the T-shaped principle to it. So, T-shaped, when it comes to teams, means that they have a breadth of knowledge as well as a depth of knowledge. So, I'm curious to see how this applies to the T-shaped persona. So, the tool T-shaped persona helps us target the minimally engaged customer and assess their awareness of our product's features. So if you use this, it's a good way for you to figure out. First you need to understand though what a persona is and how a persona is leveraged. So a persona is an abstract representation of a typical user or customer. We often focus on a buyer persona and the moments that matter the most for the buyer's journey. If you think of a customer that already uses your product or service, though, they may not fit into that persona category. So you need to think about who the person is, the customer is, the end user is. And you need to also understand what a feature is. So a feature is an important part, quality or ability of a product that makes it distinct or better. It usually contributes to the overall value proposition and makes the product what it is. So then you can start thinking in terms of a product feature map or a product feature matrix. On one axis, to features on the intersecting axis. So it's typically used to compare competing similar products or differentiated products versions from product gamma to gamma plus, gamma 2.0, and so on. So if you think about a product feature matrix and how that works, so a product feature matrix is interesting because I think a lot of people don't go there. But then when you start talking about a T-shaped person, and this is where I was going before, this describes the depth or domain expertise of an individual along the vertical stroke and also describes that same individual's breadth across the varied disciplines on the T horizontal bar. So if you start thinking about a T-shaped persona, it's a business strategy tool similar to the talent concept I talked about a moment ago, visualized by the letter T. It conveys a breadth and depth. Its differences start with its job. The vertical stroke of the letter T is the depth of the product experience, while the T horizontal axis conveys typical persona attributes like geographic, firmographic, occupational, other traits. So you're still measuring breadth and depth, but you're doing it differently. This understanding affords us opportunity to ask questions like, what is it about this persona that makes them so successful with our product? Or what can we learn about the product fit? Will our lookalike segments also engage this deeply? This understanding affords us the opportunities to engage the persona differently. And I think what it all really boils down to is what I affectionately call the recipe. So if you look at the recipe in a cookbook, you need to understand what the ingredients are and how the ingredients interact in order for you to successfully achieve the best result. And you need to have the right tools. You need to have the right pans, bowls, a mixer, whatever you need to get the job done. But it starts with knowing the customer. You need to more than just have a basic buyer or user persona. You need to be able to interact with the customer to help change or augment their behavior. At minimum, we want to be able to build upon their current usage data, and we need some marketing automation capability to include things like journey mapping and journey management, segmentation, activation, so we know how to engage with those customers, right? We need to know the product. You should have the product feature matrix done, nailed, period. The instrumentation of product usage should be organized and made consumable in a way that allows you to correlate the users and the use of features in the same language you use when we talk about the product. So if you think about what you're trying to build and how you're trying to build it and you lay out your features, you should be able to easily see how the features tie to value. You need to name your product usage levels. Featureless in hand, assess how the users progress through awareness and adoption of those features. Use that information to name a level of expertise. Recall these represent depth or the vertical bar in a T-shaped persona. These should be in a spectrum or range. So you have new, basic, explorer, adept, or advocate, right? Those are good levels of expertise. And then you can map names to the features, map names to feature awareness depth. So Start with a feature list and use the data you have about your product features and attempt to sort it by feature adoption, most advanced to most basic. Your product feature matrix is a good start if you have one of those. So if you lay everything out based on the levels of expertise left to right to plot your intersecting chart, you'll end up assigning values to those intersecting points, and you can denote when a user is aware of a feature, where a full circle might mean a user uses the feature, and it begins to tell a story about how people engage with your product or service. And I think that's the thing. But when you add the persona to complete the T, if you're aware of the product's features and have it all plotted out, it's time to overlay the persona on the horizontal bar to T. And we've outlined, how this is done just previously, but I think you need to understand who the ideal customer is, and don't be afraid to try more than one against it, and use this as an opportunity to engage differently. I think that if you look at things and say the basic and explorer levels are identified as places where you're going to take some action and really make a difference, and the call to action is that we need to make sure that we are reaching the adept column where people know exactly what they're trying to do. I think that if we get to that point where we understand the phases that the person goes through, almost like that life cycle or journey map, that's going to help us so much with our cause. And it's going to help us refocus and rekindle and rededicate our focus and get excited about mapping the persona to the initiative. That's going to do it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, learn more at agiledad.com. We'd love to hear from you. As always, we encourage you to stay healthy, stay well, and stay agile, my friends. Until next time, do take care.